Officiating the services here today is Rabbi Pamela Mandel from Am Shalom in Glencoe. Thank you, Rabbi.
We're going to begin by having the immediate members of the family, siblings as well, come forward, those who are wearing a ribbon. We begin with a tradition known as Kriya. Kriya comes from the Hebrew word kara, which means to tear. It's actually a beautiful ancient tradition that we learn of in the Torah. When Jacob learns that his beloved son Joseph has allegedly died, he's overcome with emotion. And the first thing he does is he takes his clothing and he tears it. In some ways, it's an outward sign of mourning. And in other ways, it also mirrors what's happening inside of the heart right now. I think we can acknowledge that right now there is a tear in all of your hearts. There's a place where Bobby held so much space, and thinking that he's no longer here with us is difficult. But we hope that in time, that the heart will fuse back together, even if the ribbon can't. Should you choose, you can wear this ribbon for the next week or the next 30 days, and people who see you will know to reach out to offer a comforting or supportive word. And so you can take these, and they should tear up the middle or on the side. If you'll repeat after me, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet, which means, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who is the judge of truth. Amen. It's been said that birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Today we have gathered, we have come to this place to mourn the loss of Robert Bobby Engel. And as we do, we could consider the end, and we could merely focus on the challenging years that preceded it. But our tradition would encourage us to do otherwise. Our tradition tells us that instead, we should focus on Bobby's journey. Bobby's journey was a complicated one, to be sure, but there were so many blessings along the way. There were moments of joy and happiness, and there were moments of care and compassion, and there was certainly love. Bobby was so blessed to have the love of his family, of course, his children, Scott and Dana, Melissa and Adam, his grandchildren, Ethan and Shayna, and Riley and Emerson, his siblings, Terry and Suzanne, Marty and Cheryl, his cousins, who were truly like sisters also, Trudy and Andy, his nieces and nephews, his former partner, Linda, and his loving partner, Mary. There's no doubt that the place that we all find ourselves in right now is difficult. This is hard to lose someone that we love under any circumstances. And the words of the 23rd Psalm that we often recite at a moment like this tell us that the path that we must now walk is dark. And I understand that as you begin to think of a world without Bobby in it. But the psalm is so clear. It says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." It says that we walk through. And the truth is that Bobby knew what that was like, to walk through difficult moments in our lives, but to keep moving forward. And so just as he did, we too do the same, as friends and family comforting each other. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bino dasha yarbitseni, almei menuchot yanchaleni, nafshi yoshvev yancheni ba'amagle tzedek lama'an shemo, gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi, shivtecha ushantecha hema yanchamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorar, dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya, ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chaya, v'shavti bebeit Adonai la'orech yamin. Inside your pamphlet, you can find the words that we just read, the words of the 23rd Psalm. Please join me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. One thing that I think we all understood about Bobby is that he chose how he wanted to live. He made decisions and he stood by them, and he truly forged his own path in an independent way. Even up until the end, he wanted to live life on his own terms. It's been said that we do not choose to be born. We do not choose our parents or our times or country of birth or the circumstances of our upbringing. We do not, most of us, choose to die or the time or conditions of our death. But within all this realm of choicelessness, we do choose how we shall live. courageously or in cowardice, honorably or dishonorably, with purpose or adrift. We decide what is important and what is trivial. What makes us significant is what we do or refuse to do. We decide and we choose, and so we give definition to our lives. One of the things that truly defined Bobby's life was his family. And each of you will always be a part of his life, as you have a piece of him that you will take with you wherever you go. Rabbi Larry Kushner says that each lifetime is the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. For some, there are more pieces. For others, the puzzle is more difficult to assemble. Some seem to be born with a nearly completed puzzle, and so it goes. Souls going this way and that, trying to assemble the myriad parts. But know this, no one has within themselves all the pieces to their puzzle. Like the days when they used to seal jigsaw puzzles in cellophane, ensuring that all the pieces were there, everyone carries with them at least one and probably many pieces to someone else's puzzle. Sometimes they know it, sometimes they don't. And when you present your piece, which is worthless to you, to another, whether you know it or not, whether they know it or not, you are a messenger from the Most High. It's true that some puzzles are easier to assemble, some are more difficult, but each one has beauty and meaning in it. And that can certainly be said about Bobby's life. His life mattered, and he had gifts. He had pieces of his puzzle to share, and so he will always be a part of ours. Robert Engel's life began in Chicago. There he was raised on the west side by his parents, Abraham and Esther. His father worked as a grocer while his mother stayed home to take care of Bobby and his older siblings, Terry and Marty. Terry was already a bit older when Bobby arrived, but he was always fond of his baby brother. Marty and Bobby were closer in age and spent a lot of time together. They played baseball, explored the neighborhood with friends, and engaged in some friendly wrestling. Bobby also enjoyed working with his train set. He always thought of these idyllic years as the glory days. One defining aspect of Bobby's childhood was that he was raised in close proximity of many other family members. In some ways, it was like a family compound. Their grandfather lived with them in their small apartment, and their cousins, Trudy and Andy and their family, lived in the same building. They were constantly going up and down the stairs and spending time in each other's homes. Their doors were always open. There were many holidays spent together, always filled with music and entertainment. Even when he was young, Bobby always had a passion for music. He had an appreciation for the great artists like Frankie Valli, Bob Dylan, and the Beatles. Bobby went on to attend Niles East. It was there that he met his high school sweetheart, Linda. Linda, you said that you thought Bobby was cute, and it was love at first sight. You were drawn to his sense of humor and his somewhat wild side. He was always so much fun and liked to live on the edge. Following high school, he went on to study accounting. He graduated from Roosevelt and began working for various accounting firms. He would eventually create his own firm. He formed long-lasting relationships with his clients, as he was always very reliable and loyal. He often became friends with them as well. While Bobby worked hard, nothing was more important to him than his family, especially his children, Scott and Melissa. While he could be guarded and had some trouble expressing himself, it was clear that he loved both of you so much. He just wanted the best for you, which of course included a good education. He was serious about that, but he also made time for fun, like the drives to Florida and trips to Disney. Scott, you said that you and your dad were always very close. You would talk all of the time. He was always there when you needed him to offer support and give advice. Melissa, you said that you always knew that your dad was proud of you. Adam, you remember that Bobby was so moved when you asked him for permission to marry Melissa. And Dana, you also had a special relationship with Bobby, and that he treated you like another daughter. Just as he loved his children, he absolutely adored his grandchildren. He looked forward to seeing them and FaceTiming with them whenever possible. He always wanted to make sure that they remembered him, which they did. They found him to be so funny. Outside of his family, there were a couple of other things that brought Bobby joy. Bobby loved any excuse to drive around, especially once he got his Corvette. When he lived in Chicago, he would often take trips to pick up food from one of his favorite places like Pequod's or Poochie's. He also had a habit of grilling, no matter what the weather was. This, of course, became easier when he moved to Arizona. Bobby just loved food. It was actually a shared love of pepperoni and sausage pizza that helped Bobby form a bond with Mary. The two met on Match.com and found that they had much in common. They both loved family and old music. Bobby also appreciated Mary's cooking and caretaking. She brought him so much comfort. However, it sometimes seemed like Bobby wanted to be alone. This was especially true once his health began to decline. He often turned away from the people who offered to help him, from the people who loved him the most. Perhaps it was because of regrets that he had and his realization that he had made mistakes. Though towards the end of his life, he did try to make amends and to apologize to the people he may have hurt. There is no doubt that Bobby Engel's life was full of complexity, but there were also moments of beauty, and those moments were rooted in the love that you all gave to him. Perhaps it is those moments that we will try to hold on to as we remember Bobby. Zichrono livracha, may his memory always be for a blessing. At this time, we're going to hear from some members of Bobby's family, from the people who knew him best. First speaking will be Melissa. And Scott's going
Thank you all for coming to honor our father. The outpouring of love and support is immensely appreciated by our entire family. Ironically, our father passed away on the same day Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens passed away, also known as the day the music died. We think that he would have found that very fitting, as he had a passion for music. He had a love for some of the greats. Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, the Beatles, and Bobby Rydell were among some of his favorites. Since the time I was a little girl, he would play with me the Name That Song game by quoting a line from a specific song, and I then would have to figure out who sang it and the name of the song. One of the song lyrics that we would discuss often throughout the years was "Everything is Everything, But You're Missing" by Bruce Springsteen. While we could never agree on the ultimate fate of who was missing, I think that the debate ends today. We all certainly know who is missing and is missed by everyone in this room. There was nothing he loved more than going for a ride in his Corvette with the top down, listening to music, while maybe taking a drive to one of his favorite restaurants might have been the exception. My brother enjoyed numerous hours playing billiards in the basement to him. They were even in a father and son billiards league together. To my brother and I, he will always be the Disney dad who loved going to Walt Disney World with his family and eating his way through the park. In later life, he absolutely loved being a papa to Riley, Emmy, Ethan, and Shayna. He would tell us that the last thing he would do before he closes his eyes at night was watch videos and look at his pictures of his grandbabies. He would always ask them if they remembered him, and he would speak when he would speak to them. We think he did this because he knew that they were his legacy. He wanted to ensure that he would be remembered and always be with them. Don't worry, Dad. They will always remember you. Rest well, Dad. And we hope that you have some good Springsteen music playing wherever you are and enjoying some Disney popcorn and cake. You are loved and will be missed. Here's to one more ride in the vet.
And next we'll hear from Bobby's brother Terry and then Marty.
As the rabbi said, I was graduating from college when Bobby was being bar mitzvah. So there was an age difference between the two of us, and I was less involved than Marty and Trudy and Andy when they were growing up. So I don't have the stories that Marty will probably tell about their escapades as teenagers. One of the oldest memories I have about Bobby and I doing things was when we would go to the park to play basketball and baseball. I can tell you that Bobby loved to eat, as you've heard already, and he loved junk foods. Even after he moved to Arizona, when he would return to Chicago, he would have a suitcase full of foods like pizza from Pequod's or Bert's, or hot dogs, steaks, Polish hamburgers to take back to Arizona with him. That was why he had the girth that he did after a while. He would also buy sweets from the local bakery to take back with him. I think that some of this was because our mother was always offering food to us when we visited them. She was a great baker, and we all coveted and kept her recipes. Bobby also loved memorabilia and things from the past. He had our American Flyer train set. He loved pool. He would play with the train and pool regularly, even as an adult. When we would visit at our house on holidays, we would often have ping pong and pool competitions. He also liked to make CDs, which had his favorite oldies, and then he would send them to me sometimes, and I listened to them in the car when that was done. Bobby also he also loved his white Corvette. I don't remember the year, but he had it for over 25 years, and I was shocked when he finally decided to sell it. Bobby also had numerous idiosyncrasies. Often he would call me on his cell phone, but not leave a message. Most people would leave a voicemail, but not Bobby. He also never liked to answer questions about himself. When he would talk and he would say things that would then elicit questions about what he had said, such as relating medical issues and things like that, he would get upset and stop talking. You knew that was the end of the conversation at that point. One of the last conversations I had with him a couple of weeks ago, he answered the phone by saying, "Talk." He didn't say, "Hello, how are you?" "Talk." That was his often brusque style. But with all of this, Bobby was a loving, caring younger brother who we loved and who we knew loved us, and we will miss him. Rest in peace, Bobby. Also, I'd like to thank Mary for all of her love and devotion and caring for Bobby during the last several years. Thank you.
First, I want to thank all of you for honoring my brother and showing up here and supporting us. For my 70th birthday, Bobby did something that I thought was totally out of character and shocked me beyond belief. He wrote a letter to me expressing his feelings and appreciation for being close brothers. Those of you who knew him realize that he usually did not have much to say, but I'd like to share with you what he wrote. Dear Marty, my thoughts go back in time approximately 60 years. I was 8 and you were almost 10. We would go to Kent school and you were my bodyguard. Someone who was always bigger than me and was always there for me. At home we would be in Pa's room on a Saturday morning and lay on the hardwood floor watching Fury or different cartoons. We would have our crackers with peanut butter, jelly, or butter. Or not long after that, we would watch The Untouchables or The Fugitive together. We spent our time playing with the train and playing ping pong. We played outside in the snow and had snowball fights. We would ride our bikes down Concord Lane. We played catch in the alley, or we would go to Ken's school and play fast pitch against the brick wall. So much fun. We rode our bikes together and we played in the snow together. We wrestled together, Indian wrestling, and no one ever got hurt. We would roll up our socks and play bombardment in the dining room and front room when Mom and Dad were out. We would go to the drugstore and buy boxes of Forever Yours candy bars. We worked together at Happy Foods. You drove me to Hyde Park to pick up Gail London so I could go to prom. We went to an airplane crash when they said stay away from the area. We went to a fire when they said stay away from that area. You broke my nose. In actuality, you were my best friend. You were always there when I needed you. You went to Mayfair and Roosevelt. I went to Mayfair and Roosevelt. You majored in accounting. I majored in accounting. You made sure that you were there to meet me at Fort Leonard Wood when I got there. You helped me fertilize my lawn because of my own negligence when there was no one else to help me. You got out of bed, went to my house to get my passport, and brought it to me at O'Hare Airport early in the morning so we could go to Mexico. You, in fact, were always there for me, and you never reminded me of how you always were there for me. And now, years later, you continue to help me with various accounting software, and never once did you ever throw anything up to me. You were and still are the best brother I could ever have. All these events and memories are so precious to me, I will never forget them. Love, Bobby. Can you believe he wrote something like that? Anyways, these words of his certainly display a side of him that few of you have ever seen. As an adult, he very seldom did much to show much emotion or express his thoughts. But growing up with each other was every bit as special as he recalled, and too, I love those days. While we were both married and raising our families and lived in Buffalo Grove, we were neighbors and kept a tradition while we were growing up. We had large family gatherings for every holiday and family birthdays. In later years, Bobby became even more private. He didn't like to be asked many questions and wasn't exactly polite when refusing to answer them. We were in Arizona frequently and also either texted or spoke often, but it was difficult not knowing what he was doing how he was feeling. In recent years, he obviously had many health issues and his activities were limited. When we were in Arizona, we always tried to meet with him for a meal or something, but he would usually respond by saying that he was in too much pain and it was difficult to go anywhere. In closing, Bobby was far from perfect. He could be very stubborn, short-tempered, and difficult to speak to, but I know that behind his roughness, he loved and cared very much about his family. In spite of many turbulent periods, he often told me how he worried about Scott and Melissa and his grandchildren. At times, it may not have been apparent, but he did love them with all his heart. Unfortunately, I believe that Bobby was unable to communicate his feelings and was simply frustrated. Bobby was very complex and at times difficult to figure out, but I know that he and I had an unconditional love for each other and that we would always be there for each other. I will surely miss him.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. When we have achievements that are based on his, we will remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now and always will be a part of us as we remember him. God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you, those who are stricken look for comfort, and those who are filled with sorrow for consolation. Oh God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than the grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and your glory. Please rise. El Male Rachamim, Sholchein Bemromin, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Utechorim Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Chaim Yishai Shahalach La'olamo, Ba'al Harachamim Yastirechu Beseter Kanafav La'olamim, Vayitzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai hunach lato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our beloved Bobby Engel, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And we say together, Amen. We will, for the first time in this space, together recite the words of Kaddish. The words of Kaddish, many people think speak about death, but they are actually words in which we affirm our lives, and we give thanks to God for giving us life. Today, I hope that that is what we have been able to do. Offer gratitude to God for the blessings that Bobby brought into all of our lives. And as long as we continue to remember him and to speak about him and to share his stories with our children, we can be sure that he will be woven into the fabric of our lives, and that his soul and his memory will go on to live for eternity. And so if you'll join me on the back of your pamphlet, you can find the words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirtei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'hayeh d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'almei olmaya, Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudasha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all of Israel, and to all the world. But certainly we hope that those of you who are in mourning, those among us who are bereaved, will find peace and find comfort in the days to come. Amen.
This concludes the service here in the chapel. There will be a private interment later today. The family invites all of you to join them at Max and Benny's Restaurant, 461 Waukegan Road in Northbrook. That information's on the inside portion of the funeral service folder. If you did not receive one, they are available as you depart today. I'd also ask you please take note, and those watching online as well, the family has asked that memorial contributions be made to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. That information's on the service folder as well, and for those of you watching online, this information's on the site that you're currently on. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise as the family and rabbi are escorted from the chapel. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the family will not be grieving anymore. You may join them at Max and Benny's. Thank you.